Oh, it's kind of low down there. Hi everyone, Jarrell here. I'm just working on this Sopranissimo ukulele, or this pocket ukulele. It's 11-inch scale length, and I'll be converting this into a piccolo mandolin, or more accurately, a piccolo mandolinetto. What I'm going to be working on today, it's not even going to take, that, ow, my neck, it's not going to take that much effort or time. Well, it'll take effort, just not that much time. I'll be adding this old tailpiece that I have from restoring an old instrument, and I kept the tailpiece, but it just so happens that it works out just fine here. So I actually held that in place, and I had a mechanical pencil, so I had very fine lead, and I was able to mark out where the screws are. So I've just started driving that first screw in, just so I can get that hole started. I don't have a bit small enough for these screws. So what I'll have to do here is now back out a bit. I didn't go all the way through. There's a total of 3 screws that I'll need to put in. So you can see I hold it like that. Now that I got the tailpiece here, I can sort of line that up in the hole with the tailpiece. And I can see that hole that I've just started there. Okay, very carefully. And again, I have to be very careful here. I don't want to push too far with that, or I'll end up stripping it, and that'll compromise the integrity of the wood. And it's already quite thin in there, so that's going to cause some serious long-term problems if you strip that out. So I'm not going to push that in much farther than that. So I'll put the other 2 screws in a little bit, but that's already it's already quite solid in there. So I can seat my 8 light gauge mandolin strings on there, and I took the bone saddle out just so it doesn't fly around there. Let's see here. So what I've done here on the back, I have these friction pegs, or friction tuners. They're not geared, which is generally not ideal, but it also means that I can use them in spots where there is no room for a geared tuner. If you have a look at this headstock, there's no way I could fit another geared tuner on that. So what I've done is I've measured out, and I've already marked it with my pencil. I've measured out where I can put these. So I need to be able to fit that on there and have one on each side. So I'll have one there, and I've marked them out so that if I do it correctly, they won't bump into each other. So I'm going to want to be careful, because I've made mistakes on previous projects, and I think I've learned from them, where I put these too close together and they bump. So I'll have 2 up here, 2 down here, and if I do this correctly, if I don't mess it up, I should be able to get them all on there, no problems. You can see I just want to make sure that I have enough clearance so it doesn't butt up against the machines there. So I'm going to start out with my drill bit, and I'm starting with a 2.5. Then I'm going to step up to a 3.5, then a 4.5, and finally a 6. And these are millimeters, so if you're in America, this means gobbledygook to you. So there we are. Okay, so very easy going here. You don't want to rush or speed through anything. I'm going to equip my cheater so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay. So in general, there's a lot of ways to do this, and if you want to be a big fancy person, you can have all sorts of jigs and gears and all this sort of fancy do frilly foo-fa type stuff, but you can just kind of do it the cowboy way if you want. You know, I'm not building a piano here. I'm just having a fun project. So I'm just going to eyeball how level this is. I'm going to rely on my eyeballs. You can be a sissy if you want, or you can just use your eyeballs, be a man about it, and don't complain if it's crooked. All right, here we go. First hole. Just want to be careful here. Okay, that seems all right. It went through. Just looking for my mark here. And I think I've got it. Okay, those 2 seem to have gone all right. Go to the next ones here. Hopefully my dog doesn't jump up. And I'm just eyeballing it to try and get it as level as possible. All right, and I've done dozens of these kind of projects, so I'm quite familiar with the error margin. So if I'm not super exact, I'm not going to cry about it. But there's a fairly large margin for error here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is this time I'm going to approach from the front. Now that I've made my marks on the back, I'm actually punching the material through. I know there's a thin veneer on the top here, and that's actually causing it to splinter. So now I'm going to approach from the top, and hopefully when I am putting these on, any sort of damage that's done to these headstocks, it won't be visible underneath these caps here. That's what I'm hoping for. Okay, so I'm done with the 2.5. I'm switching to the 3.5 now. Okay, and I just want to be careful here. There's a trick to use with masking tape, and you can prevent sort of splinters. But this isn't, you know, I'm not building a piano here, and it's just a fun little project. And these are sort of cheap starter instruments to begin with anyway. They're not, you know, extremely valuable. So. I've had people sort of freak out on my previous videos and say that I'm ruining these beautiful fine instruments. And these are instruments I pay like 70, 80 US for these. So I'm not real afraid of working on them. And if I do, I've never ruined an instrument, but if I did, it would be about $70, $80. So, you know, I'm not going to cry about it. I wouldn't work on a good instrument. I wouldn't make modifications on a good instrument. Okay. All right, we seem to go all right there. That's not too bad. We are through. So the reason why I've started with the smaller bits and I'm working my way up, if you're not familiar with that, is it ensures that I can have the accuracy that I'm looking for, and I'm not going to chew up my project. If I started with the 6mm bit, it's not as precise, and it could end up wandering a bit as I start boring that hole, and it could end up going off target. It could end up chewing up the material that I'll be screwing into. So that's why I'm stepping up, starting from smaller holes there, and you have a much less chance of causing significant damage to the material that you're working with. All right, so here we are. This is my 4.5 now. Alright, I've had a lot of people tell me that they'd be too afraid to work on an instrument like that, but you can't live your life in fear. You've got to grab life by the horns, and you've got to drill a hole in it. That's what I say. That's my catchphrase. So I'm done with the 4.5, and I'll switch to my 6. So if I've lined this up correctly, I've used this guy heaps of times, so these little friction tuners, I've put them on heaps of things. I know that that's right about the size. You need to get the top in there, and usually that'll do the trick. Okay, and this will be our final bore here. Okay, I haven't destroyed anything, so that's a good sign. What I might do is get maybe a bit of fine sandpaper and maybe just clean out these holes just a little bit. So I'm just going to grab a little sandpaper and just even those out. As you can see, they're a little bit gnarly. So I'll clean those out just a bit. But you can see I haven't punched through the back, and I didn't tear out huge chunks, so I'm very happy with that. I haven't caused any significant damage here. Everything looks fine. And so now I will equip these tuners after I clean out the holes bit with a little bit of sandpaper. So I'm just going to check that works all right. Yep, that looks good. So we have these metal caps that sit up there. So I'll slip that through. That sits there. Then we have this sort of friction layer here. Then we sit our peg, and if we put the screw in there, I think I may have measured this just right, and I think this measurement is good. So if I've done this correctly, it looks like I don't bump up against the existing machine. And it looks like I will have enough space to where it won't bump up when I put my second one in. Okay, so I will take a break from the video here, and I'll just clean that up. I'm going to fit the rest of the pegs on there, and then I'm going to fit all of the strings on, and then I will have to cut slots at the nut and the saddle. So I'll make a second video. I'll make a second video sharing that step. So I hope you enjoyed watching that. And again, a lot of people say they'd be too scared to sort of freak out when they see me put a power drill next to a tool. Hey, you can be afraid of life your whole existence, or you could just do what you want because you feel like it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around. Take care, everyone.